So Cowboys did the most Cowboys thing possible. They announced basically that they did not re-sign Mike McCarthy. And so during the Monday night game, at halftime, they all talked about the Cowboys, which is all Jerry Jones wants. He just wants to say things on Sunday or Monday that get you to stop talking about other teams and the playoffs and talk about him. The man's a marketing genius. I would not say he's a football genius as far as GMing the team. As far as owning a team, he's a number one owner. Increases the value and just does amazing things with that.
Who is going to be the coach, man? We're talking prime time? Urban Meyer? No.
If it's Urban Meyer, I'm going to cry. So I'll tell you who the 5 that I'm getting vibes about and reading about.
Don't be Jason Witten. Please don't.
That's one of them. There's a good. I'm going to put this Jason Witten at 15% that he's head coach, 95% that he's on the coaching staff.
Okay.
So Jason Witten's like, oh, that's our Dan Campbell. And it's like, no, just because he was white and played tight end does not mean he can do the same thing that Dan Campbell's doing. We don't know anything about Jason Witten's coaching style. And like, he was a fan favorite, but he was never like
alpha.
No, and he was never like the number one tight end in the league. Like people talk at him like he was Gronk or something. It's like we never made it past the second round. Gronk won Super Bowls. So like he was a great player, borderline Hall of Famer. If he gets in, if he doesn't get in, I'd be like, that's kind of whatever. But yeah. So I really don't want it to be Jason Witten because he fits really well into the Cowboys culture, and the Cowboys culture is the problem. So 15% chance, but gosh, I hope not. One I would like to see that won't happen is Robert Saleh. So he was fired from the Jets this year.
Yeah.
Culturally, he seemed like he had a good culture and a strong defense, which is where the Cowboys are severely lacking. After he got fired, they basically got worse at every statistical category, even though they traded for Devonta Adams and, kind of choked the game away. So he did not have a winning record, but he had good relationships with his players. And he did go 7-10 despite starting Zach Wilson. So, I mean, that's pretty good. It's not Bill Belichick leading Mac Jones to the playoffs, but it's pretty good. One I would be interested in seeing and kind of fits the narrative more so is Pete Carroll. So good coach, proven winner, and football guy.
He's getting old, though.
Yes, but that's part of what Jerry likes. They don't want people too innovative, typically, because
it's true.
Then that means Jerry's not in charge anymore, which is why they hired McCarthy in the first place, who is also a good coach, but the game's kind of passed him by. So kind of the same, I think, with Pete Carroll.
Gotcha.
Good coach, won a national championship, won a Super Bowl, turned the Seahawks, from an afterthought to a pretty consistent contender, going from Russ Wilson to Geno Smith. So he's got good energy, turns the culture into a winning culture, and good defensive mind. So I wouldn't mind that as far as like you can do worse.
What about Brian Flores?
I don't like Brian Flores.
Yeah, I don't. He had like an attitude thing.
Yeah, not a huge Flores fan. I would prefer Aaron Glenn if we're going to go. That was one of the ways the Cowboys screwed up is by waiting so long. They missed out on interviewing Detroit's offensive and defensive coordinators. They could have interviewed Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn this past week, but because they waited so long, that window closed and they can't interview them until after the playoffs.
Ben Johnson I've heard Bears. Is that?
Yes, he interviewed with the Bears, but obviously he hasn't been named coach yet. So
gotcha.
I would probably go to the Bears before the Cowboys if I'm now the two favorites in my opinion. Number 2 favorite I would say is Kellen Moore. And this would be my preferred pick of the ones I think will get the job. Like obviously I would love Sean McVay, but realistic.
Yeah.
Kellen did really well this year in Philadelphia as the offensive coordinator. He done well with Dak, leading the Cowboys to the number 1 offense in the NFL several times. People said he didn't do great with the Chargers. I thought he did excellent with the Chargers. Their offense was flying. Just people kept getting hurt. They lost Keenan Allen. They lost Mike Williams. They lost Austin Eckler. Pretty much. I mean, he got hurt and was never the same. Yeah. So by the end of the season, was it Carson Stick was his starting quarterback for the Chargers. So I don't want to hear that he did a poor at Los Angeles. It just didn't quite work.
Right.
For me, his scheme in Dallas was a little clunky.
I kind of like
they would score 2 straight and then they'd go like 3 and out 3 straight possessions. Yeah. So it would click and then stop and then click. So it was a little clunky, but I mean, it worked.
Yeah.
And I think he's grown coaching in Philadelphia. And then, I mean, taking away a coordinator from the Eagles would be great.
Yeah.
He knows the system. He knows the locker room. He knows the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my favorite choice of these. But the one that's getting all the press coverage is Deion Primetime Sanders.
It's not going to happen. There's no way that happens.
Well, think about it. They both love the attention.
Yeah.
Both Jerry and Prime are loving every inch, every second of coverage that they're getting. He handles the media the same way Jerry does, and Jerry probably loves it. He's probably like, yeah, look at that guy go. It's awesome. His son has graduated. Both sons are gone from Colorado. So what's holding him at Colorado?
And I think he's got a house in Dallas.
It's only an $8 million buyout. It's a real cheap buyout, considering your team is worth $10 billion.
Yeah, from a business, Cowboys on TV, from that standpoint, it would be genius.
Yes.
Because that would be all that gets talked about for the next year, 6 months to a year, whatever. The whole time.
Michael Irvin and Stephen A. Smith would be screaming at each other every week.
Do you have to draft? There would be no place for him there unless they drafted the kids.
You could trade up.
It's a big trade up. They think he's going to go like top 5. Supposedly he's going to the Giants.
It's a bit high to me.
Shadur. I think that's the thought process is that he's.
I know, but I mean, he's a quarterback, and quarterbacks always go higher than I think they should.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. But either there or the Raiders. It would be extremely interesting, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that that persona and what he's doing right now is perfect for NIL college football. I think it fits that world. And he can enjoy that. I don't know how long he'll be there though. He'll probably miss his kids, man. He's been coaching his kids since he was like 8.
Yeah, family man now.
Yeah,
I agree with you. His charisma and personality fit really well in recruiting.
Yeah,
like that's Prime. He'll be coached by Prime. Whereas
like what he does at the university is it's hypey, which is what you need for that age.
Yeah, I agree. Hype doesn't work in the NFL.
No.
Results. That's why
you got to walk in there and talk to grown men. It's like, eesh.
Yeah, I mean, Saban didn't work in the NFL. So as much as I love Deion as a player and as a coach at Colorado, I don't know if grown men and professionals are going to respond to hype and motivational talks the same way that college kids do. So as much as fun as it would be, I don't see it working.
Same. Yeah.
But the highlights would be great.
Yeah, the clips would be amazing. The interviews, the interviews would get watched more than the games, probably.